Hi guys, so let's compare two clear winters. So we are going to take a look at them through the artistic license color analysis system and take a look at their coloring and try to understand the colors that look best on them. So if you're interested in getting your own color analysis, I do offer that through my website and I will leave a link down below. So let's get started. So we have Zooey Deschanel and Alexis Bledel. So let's talk about what's similar between these two ladies. First of all, they are both cool undertones, so their skin has more of a blue-based undertone. Their eyes are also pretty clear and bright, and their contrast is pretty high between their hair color and their skin color. So now let's take a look at these two ladies wearing all kinds of different colors, but let's start with black. So black is a cool color, and I have a video about that, which I'll link down below. And I think that both of these ladies look really, really beautiful, and I think they are both gorgeous. But I think that Zooey looks slightly better in the black than Alexis. I think that the black looks a little bit harsh on Alexis against her skin, and I really am very skin focused, and I'm not so much talking about the features. I'm really talking about the skin and what makes the skin glow. So here's another example, and I think we can say the same thing, or at least I hope you see what I see. I think that that black dress on Alexis on the right looks a little bit harsh, and I think on Zooey on the left, it looks completely harmonious and it looks amazing, and I think Zooey looks great. So now let's take a look at royal blue. So royal blue is obviously blue-based and bright, and I think that they both look pretty good because, again, they're both wearing cool colors and they're both cool undertones, so neither of them are going to look bad. But I do think that when I look at the dress on Alexis on the right, I think that I see the dress first, but when I look at the dress on Zooey against Zooey's skin, I see Zooey as a whole. So I think that it looks slightly better on Zooey. But now let's see the opposite effect. So when I take a look at these two ladies wearing gray, I feel like Alexis just looks amazing. I think that her skin looks really glowing and really delicate, and she just looks very beautiful there, and we can still see her bright blue eyes from a mile away. And on Zooey, I think that that gray dress really weighs her down a little bit, and I don't think she really looks her personal best there. And I really like this example because the lighting is pretty similar, and both of the dresses have sparkles, and we can really see, or I hope you see what I see, in that Alexis's skin just looks amazing in that gray color against that gray color, and it looks really wonderful. And we can't necessarily see the same effect on Zooey on the left. Zooey's skin doesn't necessarily look bad on the left, but I think that compared to Alexis's skin, Zooey's skin looks a little bit plain in that color. And if we take a look at two more examples, I think we see the same effect where Alexis's skin really looks like it's very glowy in that gray color, and Zooey's skin looks like it might be a bit dragged down. It looks relatively plain relative to the gray color. So I tried to choose images that had pretty similar quality and kind of similar lighting, and I think this is just another set of images that shows the same thing. So now let's take a look at both of these ladies wearing a muted blue color. So I think that Alexis on the right looks so much better in the muted blue color than Zooey does on the left. I think that on the left, Zooey's hands and arms really stand out against that blue color, and when we look at that photo, if we look away and we look at it again, all we see is her arms. We actually don't really even see Zooey's face. We see her arms first, and it's like that dress kind of ran away from her because her undertone is so bright. But on the other hand, when we look at Alexis in that dress, and especially the color against her skin, you can see the effect again of that very delicate undertone, that very soft glow that Alexis has in these cool muted colors. And this is one of my favorite looks on Alexis because not only is she accentuating her delicate undertone, she's also tying in her darker hair with that darker detailing on the dress, and I think she looks absolutely amazing here. Let's take a look at another example of Zooey wearing this kind of muted blue color, and when you look away and you look at the image, I think the first thing that you see is her bright undertone arms, and it looks a little bit separate from the dress, and it looks like, again, the dress ran away from her a little bit, and of course, on Alexis, that is not the effect that we get. On Alexis, we see the entire image, we see Alexis's entire look and her delicate undertone all together. So now let's take a look at Optic White. Optic White is a cool, bright color, and I have a video on that I'll link down below. So I think that Alexis looks like the white is a little bit separate from her, and Zooey looks just right in that white color. I think that the white color and Zooey all look harmonious, and we look at the image as a whole, and on Alexis, that white kind of stands out a little bit against her skin. It is a little subtle, but still I think the effect is there. So now when we look at a sort of white-gray color, a more muted white, then I think that Alexis really starts to get her glow back. I think that Alexis's skin against that color looks much more harmonious, and I think that the gray-white color is not really doing that much for Zooey. I think she looks fine there, but I don't think it's one of her best colors. So now let's take a look at both of these ladies wearing purple. So purple is blue-based and bright, so I think that when I look at Alexis wearing the purple dress, I see the purple before I see Alexis. And when I look at Zooey on the left wearing the purple dress, again, I see Zooey as a whole. And I see her entire look, and I am more drawn to her face. When I try to look at Alexis's face in the purple dress, my attention is constantly drawn back toward the color. And now we see the opposite effect. So when I look at the burgundy on Zooey on the left, all I see is, again, sort of her neckline area and her hand and her face sort of levitating, and the color kind of ran away from her. The color is just not bright enough to handle Zooey's bright skin undertone. But when I look at this burgundy color on Alexis, I think I see the whole image and it looks very harmonious, and I really like that color on Alexis. Taking a look at magenta or fuchsia, I think that it's a similar effect. So when I look at that dress on Alexis on the right, I think that even though that photo is pretty bright of her as a whole, I still am always drawn to the color, and it's always a battle. I'm trying to look at Alexis, but the color kind of distracts me a little bit. But when I look at Zooey on the left, I think that entire look is very harmonious. So here are two more images, and you can really see the effect here. I think that so both of these images are in daylight. They're both pretty much the same color, and I hope you see what I see. When I look at the image of Zooey, I think that she looks amazing, and I think I can really see her as a whole. I don't see the color or her arms first, I just see the whole image as a whole. But when I look at Alexis, I see the color first, and I really have to try hard to look at Alexis because my attention is always being drawn toward the color. So here are two more images, and I think it's the same effect where on the left I can see Zooey as a whole and I think she looks great, and on the right, even though Alexis's eyes are so bright, and actually Alexis's eyes are brighter than Zooey's eyes, still, even though I try to look at Alexis's eyes, I'm still drawn to the color of the dress. And I wonder if this happens to you as well. When you look at that image, the eye always wants to go to the dress, but when you look at the image of Zooey on the left, your eye doesn't necessarily go to the dress. It just looks at the image as a whole, because the whole image, that color against her skin, the color against Zooey's skin is all very harmonious. So your eye is not drawn to one thing or another. You simply see Zooey. And when you compare Alexis wearing a bit more of a muted blue color as compared to the bright blue color, I think that Alexis's eyes actually look much brighter on the left. And when you look at that image on the left, the first thing you really see is her smile and her eyes, and you're not really distracted by that dress or by the bright color of the dress that she's wearing, because the color is more muted, and because the color of the muted dress accentuates her undertone, then then that undertone will accentuate her face. And if her face is accentuated, then the face obviously is going to frame her eyes. And the first thing that we see is her bright blue eyes on the left. But those muted colors have that effect on Alexis, but I think they have the opposite effect on Zooey. So when you look at this set of images, I'll tell you what I see. The first thing I notice is her arms, and I'm actually not really drawn to her face. I'm not really looking at her face. I'm just looking at her arms and the skin on her arms because her undertone is so bright that that is what stands out. So when we take a look at Zooey wearing these really bright colors, I hope you see what I see. Right away, I see Zooey's face being really nicely framed by the colors, and I see her entire look as a whole, and she just looks really amazing in all of these colors and very harmonious, and I'm not looking at one thing or another, I'm just looking at the whole look. But now if we take a look at the same colors on Alexis, let me know what you see first as soon as the slide switches. So what I see first is the colors of the dresses, and then I finally start to make out Alexis after I see the colors of the dresses. And this is because her undertone itself is very delicate. The color of her skin is more delicate. So that's why those colors are very overpowering on her, even though she has the dark hair, even though she has the bright eyes. And as soon as we switch to the colors that are a bit more muted, we see Alexis again. So we can see her delicate undertone, we can see her bright eyes, and we can see her overall look. We're not looking at one thing or another. We're not looking at her arms or her dress. We're not looking at one thing or another. It's not distracting. It's all just as a whole much more harmonious in my opinion when she wears this muted palette, this muted color palette. So that is what I would classify Alexis Bledel as. I think she has a soft, delicate undertone and she has bright blue eyes, and these are two of my favorite looks on her, and we can see her bright blue eyes from a mile away. She does not have to wear bright colors that actually can distract from her eyes because she gets lost in those brighter colors. So these are the colors that really look amazing on her, and on the right she's tying in some of her darker hair into that detailing in the blue dress, and on the left her skin looks so glowy and so amazing, and her eyes look super bright and super blue. Zooey Deschanel is bright and radiant. That is her undertone. So she has a cool, radiant undertone and she has bright blue eyes. So she looks amazing in these royal blues, royal purples, and the whole look is very harmonious. Her entire look is very bright, very high contrast, as well as high chroma. So she is a bright and cool undertone. So if you're still here and you're still listening, you're probably wondering what is going on. So let me tell you what I think is going on. So I have recognized that there are two additional undertones. Aside from simply warm or cool, there are two categories of warm undertones and two categories of cool undertones. So the warm undertones are what I call the yellow-based undertones, and they can be split into warm and radiant, and warm and delicate. And the cool undertones, the blue-based undertones, can be split into cool and radiant and cool and delicate. So what I believe we saw here today is that Alexis Bledel is a cool and delicate undertone, and Zooey Deschanel is a cool and radiant undertone. So we are just talking about the skin itself. We're not talking about the hair color or the eye color, although those are also important factors to consider after finding your undertone. I think that the skin undertone is the most important factor to really looking your personal best. So some examples of people with a warm and radiant skin undertone are Hayden Panettiere, Eva Longoria, and Oprah Winfrey. Some examples of people with warm and delicate skin undertones are Cate Blanchett, Beyoncé, and Lucy Liu. And cool and radiant skin undertones are Alicia Keys, Fan Bingbing, and Anne Hathaway. And finally, cool and delicate undertones are Camilla Belle, Lisa Bonet, and Kim Kardashian. So these are all just skin undertones themselves. They are not including eye color or hair color or other features. They simply include the skin color itself and whether or not it looks more glowy and delicate or more radiant and bright. So that is it, you guys. If you are interested in getting a color consult with me, then you are welcome to do so. I will leave a link down below. And if you liked this video, then I would be happy to hear about it. And as usual, if you have any questions or comments or video requests, then also leave them down below. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time.